Well, welcome to Macrodosing. We're welcoming on Randy Lanier, a guy with an amazing story, weed, speed, and all sorts of stuff. So thank you for coming on, Randy.
Thank you. A lot of weed and a lot of speed.
But he wasn't selling speed. You were only selling weed.
No, I was driving speed,
selling
weed.
Yes, that's how it goes. So now, when you were in the midst of your drug smuggling days, was marijuana the only drug that you were dealing with?
Yes, I'm a smuggler of weed.
And that is like, it's almost not even considered a drug anymore. So
I did bring in one load of some coke, but that was the worst mistake I've done, and not a coke dealer.
What was the difference in, the whole, because everyone's heard about the Miami coke smuggling scene and how that was like, Scarface type stuff. Was the weed smuggling business like chiller to
the weed smuggling business is 100-fold chiller.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I tried to do a load of coke one time and I gave it all back. I didn't want to deal with the people, didn't want to deal with the whole attitude. So I stuck with the weed.
Wow.
So for those who don't know your story, and for some of the listeners, how would you describe your journey to this point, in this moment, what you've been through, just so everyone can sort of get a little bit of taste of what the book entails and everything?
So it started back when I was a youngster. I've been burning weed for 53 years. Selling weed for just as much until the penitentiary caught up with me in the U.S. government. So started smuggling weed when I was 19, running loads in from the Bahamas, and gradually just expanded. Things evolved. In any entrepreneur, you figure out ways to make things better and grow your business, and that's kind of path that I was on.
But so your first love though was racing, right? And cars.
Well, I was a late bloomer in racing.
Okay.
I was a smuggler before I was racing.
Okay.
But from smuggling, and I took up the hobby of racing, I figured out I can kind of finance my racing career through my smuggling.
All right.
So being a professional race car driver and a drug smuggler, what does a day look like in terms of time-wise? Because I would think being a race car driver requires quite a bit of your time, but you also have this other thing that you're doing there that would also seemingly require just as much.
So first I was a hobbyist at racing. I joined the sports car club, SCCA, Sports Car Club of America. So it was a hobby on the weekends, and I was distributing and importing loads from other smugglers. And then as my ambition started to grow in racing, I got a ride with a Ferrari team in Europe, went to Europe, came back, started getting other rides with pro teams. And I had some mishaps with some teams that didn't have the financial ability to keep the parts they needed. We did a DNF. I did not finish at the Miami Grand Prix. And I done rented all this Everglades Hotel suites and lots of people and family invited to catered events I got going on, and the car broke down, so I didn't get to run it. I'm sitting in the pits, and it's my hometown with all my friends and guests and family. So I said, you know what, it's time for me to figure out my own team. So I kind of put my own team together. And so a day would look like, as far as the smuggling and the racing, if I'm not at a racetrack, at the race shop, I'm at a boat yard somewhere.
Yeah.
It was busy.
So you'd be personally on the boat and take it to the Bahamas?
No, I had when I was young, when I started doing it, I ran the loads in myself.
Wow. So was it just you on the boat, or would you usually have
myself
a couple friends?
And one or two other people.
Yeah. And then you would leave from Florida,
I'd leave
go down to the Bahamas?
Fort Lauderdale to Miami and shoot over to the Bahamas and meet a mothership, put it on my vessel, and come on back.
How easy was it back then compared to now? Like doing that, you were 19 years old. I saw you bought an 18K boat and was using it to run to and from the Bahamas.
Right.
what was the main difference you say between now and then, be it in naval
Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The police.
Yeah.
So back then they didn't have all the global positioning. They had something called sat nav, where you could the sats would come around and you could get a positioning on your radar and kind of figure out things, where you are and where you have to go and who you have to meet. But as far as it being easy, it's never easy, because a lot of times things happen. You have to improvise, whether boats break down. Are you worried about a police agency such as the Bahamian Police or the DEA, the FBI, the Marine Patrol that patrols the water? So it's never easy. And but versus back then it was a whole lot easier than it would be now.
What do you think about the weed back then compared to the weed now? Because we have a bunch of conversations on this show about how we need to bring back mids because the weed is just way too strong nowadays.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I like good weed. I love organically sun-grown weed that's really fire. And the indoor hybrid weed right now that they're trying to put diamonds and crumbles and different extracts into it, I'm not a fan of. I like flower.
Yeah.
I just like straight good flower.
Not a fan of the gummies.
No, I don't eat gummies.
Okay, yeah, that's
Look,
probably smart.
I tell you, I'm in LA. I'm getting ready to get on an airplane with my son. First time my son was 7 days old when I went to prison.
Yeah.
I come out and he's a gym guy, 27 years old, and all about the gym. And so first time him and I travel, we've been out in LA for a few days, and I'm at the airport, and we both get a bag of gummies, 150 milligrams each.
Yeah. Geez.
Well, he's eating his gummies, and I see he eat the whole bag.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a tolerance.
Yeah.
So I said, well, shit, you eating that whole bag? He said, oh, Pop, Dad, don't eat the bag. I ate about half of it. Worst thing I've ever done. Look, I didn't think I could get on the friggin' plane. I'm sitting there waiting. They call my flight, and I told my son, I don't think I can get on this plane.
Yeah.
I'm sweating, sweat's rolling off of me.
Yeah, no. I know people who have had to go to the hospital for that.
I quit eating gummies.
That's crazy that we've gotten to the point where someone who was so involved in the early stages of the marijuana business, and talking about legal marijuana now, what you were doing back then did lay a groundwork in some way for weed culture and
it's amazing the supply and demand. As I was bringing it in, I was bringing in loads, my own loads. I started with the 68. I started with 27 foot, bringing in loads of other smugglers. And getting involved with a lot of other smugglers and personalities is strange.
Yeah.
And I had something happen where I lost a load. And it didn't go over well with the smuggler that I got the load from, or his boat captain.
Yeah.
And after that fiasco, I decided, you know what, I'm picking up a boat and doing it myself. So I bought a 68-footer and started doing it myself. And that was much easier, much more chill, because it was myself and all my friends.
Yeah.
And we didn't carry weapons or anything. We're just a lot of potheads that found a way to make funds to get us on our way to what we wanted to accomplish.
I was reading that the first big shipment that you did on your own, and that barge that you bought, that came in through New York, right? Was that at the Brooklyn Navy Yard?
I brought in 110,000 pounds. I brought a couple loads here in New York City.
Yeah.
And I brought in 110,000 pound on a 300-foot barge with a 150-foot tugboat, and I brought it first up to Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I had already brought a 35,000 pound load on my tugboat, on the 150-foot tugboat, about several months before that. So now I got the barge and the tugboat. But it ended up that I was being watched by a police department. Don't know which one. It's just I had people driving around the neighborhood with these Bearcat scanners, and at a certain time I had them go into the yard that I had rented across from the Sikorsky helicopter factory in Bridgeport.
I know that place well.
And as soon as they opened the gates and go in, they said suspect entering compound. So they called their bosses, and their boss called me, and I said, well, all right, thanks for the information. So I had to move the vessel, and I brought it to a boat yard here in New Jersey, pulled it out of the water for a month with 110,000 pounds. It sat there until I found the spot, which was the abandoned Brooklyn Naval Yards. The year was 1983.
Yeah. Now that whole area has been redeveloped, and it's actually pretty nice. But back then, it was just it was pretty abandoned.
Well, right now it was pretty abandoned in a perfect spot for a smuggler.
Yeah.
Quick question: when that's a lot of weight you were moving, and did you have to have any sort of paperwork? Like, what did you say you were moving, if you even had to?
So we did it through. We'd bring after I'd load the barge, and let's say I would I have the crew tug it to Venezuela and put cement, pre-bags Venezuelan cement. Then we would tug the boat, pull the boat to Santo Domingo. There, I would have a charter company bring in a whole fresh crew, captain and crew, to bring in the material that we had, whether it was Brazilian wood, Brazilian nuts, Venezuelan cement. So I have a manifest, and I'd have a whole brand new crew that wasn't part of my operation. They did not know weed was on board that vessel.
Oh, okay.
So they would bring that boat in and clear customs.
All right. Probably for the best. Because,
well, they wouldn't be nervous. See, they come on and take your passports.
Yeah.
And they say you cannot come ashore.
Yeah.
So if you know you got 110,000 pounds or 150,000 pounds, you're going to probably be nervous.
You're very nervous.
They pick up on that.
Yeah.
So we used a crew that didn't know. There was a legit crew.
Yeah.
So when you were swapping out, so would you actually put bags of concrete then swap it out at some point?
No, we'd buy the concrete and wholesale it out to every lumber company we could sell it to.
So you were making money just off the cover for the weed as well, or was it
I gave that to my partner. I just, look, you get rid of the cement and the Brazilian wood, and that's yours.
Would you have to put the weed in like the bag cement, or
no? I put the 300-foot barge, 7 stories high. We took halfway down. We welded 3/4-inch steel and made a false bottom, and we put salt water. See, to build the balance on the barges all the way down. So when they are riding through the ocean, if they don't have a load, they pump salt water to create balance. If they have a load, 1 million pounds or something, they'll pump water out. So we took the ballast and welded 3/4-inch steel, made a hidden compartment. When I got to Colombia, I cut it open with we cut it open with torches and loaded the weed inside the ballast underneath all the salt water. So when I came in customs, if they wanted to check the ballast, they'd pump out some salt water and go, yeah, it's salt water.
Yeah. Having no idea that all the weed's in there
having no idea
too.
that down below there's 170,000 pounds of weed.
How are you laundering the money? Because you were dealing with so much was it all cash? You could just get away with it?
Okay, look, cash, man.
Yeah.
Cash is king.
Yeah.
So have you watched shows like Breaking Bad and Ozark and stuff like that, and how?
Yeah, I watched that in penitentiary on layover coming back from a hip operation, and they had put me into Oklahoma. They have a big center at the Oklahoma airport, and that's a transfer center. And I got stuck there for about a week. So first time they let me in population, because I was maximum security, what they call a 2-hour watch, high accountability. I was escape risk. So for 18 years, I had to they wanted me wear it around my neck, but I just stuck it in my pocket, a big orange card with my face and my number on it. Every 2 hours, I had to go find an officer and say, hey, can you call me into control unit? He looked at me and he says, hey, this officer so shithead, I got a visual on Lanier. He's here in the law library of the rec room.
Wow.
And every 2 hours in the weekdays, every 1 hour on the weekends, every 1 hour on the holidays, and every 1 hour after 4 p.m., I had to report to an officer for 18 years.
So reading in your book, we saw that the place they put you were put with the likes of John Gotti. Am I correct in saying that? And also some Al-Qaeda operatives in the 90s?
Yeah, when I first went in, I was in a medium security for about a year, and then I picked up a escape investigation, and then that got me sent to maximum securities.
Were you actually planning your escape?
Look, when I went in, I was 33 years old, $100 million in my pocket, accounts from Switzerland to Zurich to Geneva to Liechtenstein to Luxembourg. So I was kind of full of myself, and I figured if the courts couldn't get me out, I'd get myself out. So I was plotting and planning.
Because you had a friend who escaped from jail using a helicopter, or at least he tried. It failed.
I had a co-defendant that tried to escape from a helicopter, but I had a friend that escaped from a medium security in Talladega, Alabama, through a false wall of a vegetable truck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did they ever catch him again? Or
they caught him several years later. He was smuggling.
Oh, again?
He went back to it?
He went back to it.
Yeah. It's probably hard to find a legit job once you escape from prison.
No, I would think so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for those who don't know, you were sentenced to life without parole with 2 concurrent or non-concurring sentences?
I was sentenced to my first count.
Mm-hmm.
I was sentenced to natural death, life without parole.
God.
Count 2,
Yeah.
I was sentenced to 40 years for conspiracy to distribute marijuana. The problem what we got here is that it's a flower.
Yeah.
And my first count was I was charged with running a criminal enterprise that imported and distributed a Scheduled 1 narcotic.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
My second charge, conspiracy to distribute over 1,000 pounds of a Scheduled 1 narcotic, marijuana.
Yeah.
And I got life in 40 years.
And marijuana has never killed anyone.
It's ridiculous.
It's literally impossible to overdose on marijuana.
And that's why they get like, you got Biden that just recently,
yeah.
everybody's read that he's going to pardon all the simple possession cases.
Yes.
There's not a single simple possession case in federal custody at all. That's smoke and mirrors. Now, the states have some simple possession cases, the states, but he cannot pardon those people. That's why you see him in his speech, he urged the states to file a suit.
Yeah.
There's not one prisoner that's coming out of tens of thousands, marijuana prisoners, that's coming out of prison due to what he said about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
Because those prisoners are there for trafficking?
They're in there for a simple word. Possession with intent to distribute, possession with intent to traffic, possession with intent to sell, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an intent. You don't even have to do it. I have a couple that got caught with 50 pounds of weed, a husband and wife. She's pregnant. They arrest them, don't give them bond. She's pregnant. She has the baby in the county jail. They take the baby from her.
Oh, my God.
And want to put the baby in foster care. So they have to go through the courts to get the brother to raise the baby. She got 6 years. He got 5 years. And the husband just came out 30 days ago.
Jeez.
And she is still in with 1 more year to do for 50 pounds of weed.
Yeah.
Look, there's companies out here right now selling thousands of pounds every week.
Mm-hmm.
And there's companies, these corporate companies are making $300 million every quarter.
Yeah.
$300 million every quarter. But
The
yet,
U.S. government, too, because they're getting all the taxes from it.
Absolutely. But yet, if you get caught with 50 pounds, you're going to jail for 5 to 10 years. It makes no sense.
Huh.
So I have a nonprofit organization called freedomgrow.org.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all about cannabis prisoners. We've got like a multitude of programs. If you're a cannabis prisoner and you register with us, we vet you. We go through your case, make sure you're a nonviolent cannabis prisoner. And if you are, if it's your birthday, your mother's birthday, your grandfather's birthday, your children's, your grandchildren, you just let us know what you want and we make it happen. Whether it's one single rose, I get one guy's for the last 8 years been wanting a single yellow rose on Mother's Day. Every holiday we do gifting. Every birthday and every holiday we do gifting for these families. Because one thing about when you lock up a person, you're actually incarcerating the family. Because the separation is just trauma city.
Yeah.
It's sad because maybe the person was the breadwinner, or the dad that's raising young kids, and now you got a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad that that this is still happening. Just yesterday, I did a family here in Florida. We're gifting them. We paired up with AYR Wellness. It's a big MSO, and they have really stepped up to the plate. They're granting grants to help these families that are going through hardships and struggles while their husband or father or somebody in the family is locked up for cannabis. And the company that the nonprofit's called freedomgrow.org. If you haven't heard of it, check it out.
We will.
Thank you.
And so you were released from prison under the Obama administration. Is that because they were trying to relax a little bit on?
So I was released
cracking
under the
down?
Obama administration, and
Yeah.
he had passed down a directive to the U.S. Justice Department to look at the nonviolent first-time offenders that are doing long, lengthy prison sentences. So I fell right into that category.
That's pretty. It's surprising for me, who just consumes media when it comes to drug smuggling, and the fact that you were able to do this with still being a non-violent offender. I mean, I like all the stories of cocaine smuggling.
It's weed.
Yeah, I know it's weed. I think that's something that.
Smoke a joint.
Yeah.
You want to chill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one's. I mean, what was there much people you were dealing with who were constantly armed, or was it more that was the coke trade?
If I thought you were armed, I wouldn't mess with you. I don't want you around me.
Yeah. And so all the weed you got was from Colombia. Did you have a lot of contacts with the cartel down there?
For families that grew mountainsides of weed, if that's
okay.
what you mean.
All right. So, yeah.
So you weren't dealing with a large criminal enterprise when buying the drugs, just sort of farmers who.
When I started my first load in 1982, I went in and got 15,000 pounds on a 68-foot vessel. And that I met a family that had connections that took us up in the mountains. And I looked at the weed that they had available, and it was like exceptionally good.
Yeah.
And all I wanted was the tops. I didn't want to bring in no mid-level weed, no commercial weed. I didn't import commercial weed, all flower tops.
All right.
So it was all tops of the plant.
Colombia is a beautiful country.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Are you allowed to leave the country now, or was part of your?
I'm off probation. When I got out, I had 3 years probation.
Okay.
So I'm got my passport now.
Did they drug test you during your probation for marijuana?
Damn Skippy.
Yeah. And that must have been the worst.
Yeah. Well, it was all right. I didn't smoke weed until after I was off probation.
What was that first joint like, or whatever you smoked after all those years, and then finally being able to?
It was not off. I smoked almost every day in a joint.
Oh, you did. How does that work?
People get weed in.
People can get like hard drugs in there too,
in the
right?
Maximum security penitentiaries. I spent 2 years in the hole in Florence, Colorado.
Solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement for investigation of escape.
Wow.
I smoked weed in the hole at the most maximum security prison. Majority of the time I was there for 2 years.
Wait, so does that mean that some of these guys who've been put away, be it like one of the Boston bombers, Sarnav, who I think's in
No,
there?
they're at the ADX.
Okay, that's
It's
different.
not happening.
They're not getting weed? Okay.
No.
Okay, that makes me feel
Okay.
So when you get to prison, are people kind of like, and they hear your story, are people like, that's pretty badass, like you're the cool guy?
So with my story in these prisons, you get a lot of respect because a lot of guys that are in there are hustlers, and they kind of give you respect for standing up. They're not inclined to friend people that are cooperating witnesses.
Yeah.
You best hook it up to the lieutenant's office and check your ass in and go to the hole, else you'll get beat down. This is in maximum security.
Yeah.
In minimum or medium, it's not like that. You can walk the yard.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
in maximum security, if they find out that you, as a person that cooperated against others, very good chance of you getting booked.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're Jared Fogle, say, I don't think he probably gets a lot of respect in prison. Jared Fogle was, you were maybe.
Who's Jared
Yeah,
Fogle?
actually, this is one of my last questions
All right.
because I know we have to wrap it up.
But yeah.
After going to prison for so long and during extremely huge changes in society, technology, and everything, getting out, what was some of the most surprising things and differences from when you went in?
The phones,
Yeah.
they talk to you. They tell you
Yeah.
where to go. They listen to you.
Yeah.
The phones, it blew my mind. My first night I went out to dinner and I seen so many people at the restaurants not talking. And they're
Everyone's just
they're on
glued.
phones.
Yep.
And I told my family, listen, no phones at the dinner table.
That's a good rule.
Yeah.
So, I'm just blessed to be here. One of the things that going to prison for so long, I did 27 years, really teaches you gratitude.
Yeah.
But not only that, my last 9 years, I was a volunteer suicide companion. I was a yoga instructor. So it really taught me something that's super valuable. The highest form of knowledge on the planet is empathy. And gratitude is the abundance. It's the cornerstone of bringing abundance into your life. It's amazing how it works. And if you want to know more about it, read Survival of the Fastest and check out freedomgrow.org.
I'm really curious though, like how you coped with your 2 years in solitary confinement, because I feel like I would start to go kind of crazy after 5 days in there.
Well, you'd be surprised because one of the things we all have in common is adaptation. And some people don't adapt so good. You heard me just tell you, 9 years I was a suicide companion. I sat with hundreds and hundreds of men 4 hours a day, people that tried to take their lives. And some of them were getting ready to go home. They've been in for 30 years and now they're getting close to the door. Or maybe they've been in for 8 years and their family done kicked them to the curb, whatever the issue is. And a lot of them's had stuff done to them since they was a child, maybe by a family member. And they've never gotten over it or had anybody to really help get them through it and understand that we all have special gifts right here. Everyone on this planet have gifts within us. We got the gift of having the capacity and the capability to be the observer of our own thoughts and emotions. Well, with that known, you can take that to another level, and another gift is we have the capacity and capability to change any experience that we are experiencing in any situation or any circumstances. We have the ability to change that experience. If you're having a negative experience, you have the capacity and capability to change that experience simply by changing your perspective.
It's all up here.
I mean, I could have never imagined going through getting a life sentence, no parole, and having someone who's been there and seen it and gotten that in that moment, and now having this outlook is just, I mean, it's inspiring more than anything.
Yeah,
But
I just was a speaker at a cannabis convention, and I was a keynote speaker. And they asked me, well, what would be your topic? And I said, inspiration and magnificence. Well, how are you going to speak about that? Look, inspiration and magnificence is within us and all around us. You can look at your brother right here. Inspiration, we can all inspire each other and we can inspire ourselves. And that, to me, is magnificent.
well,
Wow.
unfortunately, I think we're going to have to wrap it up. I think we didn't even get out into, your Indy 500 Rookie of the Year,
Yeah.
1986. We didn't even get into racing.
What was a bigger rush, racing in the Indy 500 or bringing in a giant shipment of weed?
Racing.
Okay.
It's nothing like it.
Yeah.
How much cross training was there between racing and smuggling? Like going fast?
I didn't train for the smuggling, but I trained for the racing.
Yeah.
I'm a big runner. I'd run 50 to 75 miles a week at the gym back in the day. Trained hard. A lot of, I like to do hand-eye coordination. I'm a racquetball player. I love racquetball so much, I built my own racquetball court at my house. So,
What did you ever smoke while racing?
hell no.
I was wondering how that mixed.
No, I didn't smoke. Actually, I quit smoking weed in 1979 because I wanted to become a race car driver. And I would taste some of the weed that I was smuggling. I'll bring it in. But I didn't. I stopped the smoking because I wanted to devote my life to racing.
Yeah.
So, yes. So when you'd won the Indy 500 Rookie of the Year in 1986, do you think that may have contributed to attention on you and your
Had
operation?
nothing to do with it. I was already under investigation when I was at the 500 in 1986.
Huh.
Yeah.
When you were like first on the run, when you knew they were coming for you, I was reading that you went to Europe first, right? You were in Monte Carlo, and
First came to New York City.
first came to New York, and then Monte Carlo, but then you went back to the Caribbean.
Monte Carlo, then Switzerland,
Yeah.
south of France. I just was taking care of business, and I had a house and a boat down in the islands in Antigua.
Do you think if you had just stayed in Europe, you would have been caught? If you had just stayed there for the rest of your life? And
If I'd have stayed in Europe, I may have not
yeah,
been caught. I don't know, but I did and had to pay my dues.
yeah.
And 3 decades, 27 years, and now I'm out and helping others with cannabis prisoners that are in.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're doing the right thing. 'Cause
That's
there's a
so
lot of people who
thank
need your
you.
help.
Thank you. Please check out freedomgrow.org.
Yeah.
We're all volunteers, by the way. None of our board members take a salary. We all do it on our own time.
That's awesome.
And also read Survival of the Fastest. Get more of this story. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, just want to tell you, I put this book out. I dropped it August the 2nd. In 4 days, it was the #1 bestseller on Amazon.com. Amazon.
Yeah.
But I just sold it for a movie, a full feature
Oh,
film.
that's awesome.
Let's go.
So let's go.
Yeah.
It's getting it done.
When you have some more time in the future, we definitely have to have you back on to talk
Right
about.
on. Yeah, we got a lot
because
to cover.
because
Okay.
this
When the movie comes out.
Yeah,
When the
we'll bring
movie
it back
come
for the
out.
movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
because this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
One second. I got one question, man.
Right on.
I've been. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
I've been intently listening. This is a crazy story, man. So I just had a few questions, man. Apologize for keeping you no longer, but something you said was extremely powerful. But I always wondered about this, right? Because you said the highest form of knowledge on the planet is empathy, right?
Yes.
And in your experience, how far do you extend that empathy within drawing boundaries for yourself for people not taking advantage of you?
Well, I think my intuition kind of fills that out when I think someone right now I'm some crazy stuff's going on with the cannabis industry that I'm involved with, and with corporations and so forth trying to get things done. I just got given a license in the state next to you, New Jersey. Of all things, they've awarded me a cultivation license, a tier 4, 75,000 square feet of canopy. That's huge. And so in speaking to that, I got companies, corporations wanting to buy out my license right now, but I'm not going the corporate route. I'm kind of figuring it out myself. But for my empathy and applying it to people that are trying to maybe take advantage of something, I try to lead from my heart. And one of the things that if our intentions are from the heart, you'll always make the good decisions, I think.
I got you. I appreciate that. And lastly, man, I know it's a little kind of funny, but I'm just curious how this shit works. Like when you got pinched and you said you had all these overseas accounts,
Yep.
are those accounts like still active, or how does that work?
No, they took 7 years. I'm in the joint, and 4.5 years later, my wife gets indicted for money laundering.
Damn.
They end up arresting her. They seized the accounts in Switzerland. So when they seized those accounts, in one of their lawyers' offices were file cabinets. And in those file cabinets were documents that led them to another country, to Liechtenstein, where they went over there and seized those accounts. So
Damn.
it was like a domino effect, man, from one country to another, from Panama to Liechtenstein to Luxembourg to Zurich to Geneva. It's
Followed the money.
I thought
Follow
that
money.
I thought the whole point of Switzerland was that they didn't no, you can't
That's
look
false.
at it. I thought that was the whole
no,
thing.
if it's drug related, that you have no rights to any funding in Switzerland. They will turn your ass over.
Damn. Well, I appreciate the transparency, man. It's an amazing story. As they say, it's hella inspiring, man. So I appreciate you sharing it,
Well,
brother.
thank you, man. Look, we're all so blessed just to be here, to have this freedom to go on the path that we want to go on. And, we all can do great things because we have so many gifts within us. And if you really, really live through your heart with good intentions, you'll get all that stuff done.
Last question, I promise. Are you still racing?
I am doing this is amazing. Tomorrow, Road and Track Magazine has invited me to do the Hudson Quad Central. They're giving me a new Hellcat, 600, I think, 40 horsepower to drive a rally from Albany, New York to Lime Rock, Connecticut, and with 25 hand-picked cars. So I do high-performance driving instructions through Daytona, Homestead Speedway, and Sebring in Florida. And I've done 5 races since I've been released. I've taken 2 seconds, 1 fourth, and 2 DNFs. Did not finish.
Huh. Okay.
Do you think you could compete with some of the guys today? Have a
With the
resurgence?
I better be in a class with some legacy people because my eyesight's not like it used to be. My reflexes aren't like it used to be. So at a point there comes when age comes about and you don't see no F1 drivers that are in their 40s or 50s or 60s. You see youngsters that are at the wheel with their foot down on the throttle doing amazing things.
So does the reflexes really deteriorate that much with age to the point where it's...
Yeah, when you're traveling at over 200 miles an hour and you're moving so fast, you got to be quick on your eyesight and your hands.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's because you would think that you could just, really drive, like, as someone who's much more of an outsider to the sport, you feel that driving something that it's not that intensive on your body, so that
it's killer on the body.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've never experienced it.
You're
so
constantly getting G-forces and,
Yeah.
and the heat in the car is just amazing. It's 120 degrees or more in the car.
Yeah. You have to be so locked in. I can't even imagine it.
That's it. The guys that you see are up front a lot.
Yeah.
They're probably concentrating. Their level of concentration is probably just a tad higher than the people in the back.
Yeah. I mean, I get nervous when I'm going like 80 miles per hour on the highway. So I can't imagine doing what you do.
Do you think there's been some controversy in NASCAR and some of the racing leagues recently about Adderall use in drivers? Do you have any input on that? Was it prevalent in your time?
Adderall probably didn't even exist.
Any
maybe
type
back
of
when you were there.
amphetamines?
Anybody that's got any sense isn't doing drugs in a race car. I never saw it. I saw it afterwards.
Yeah.
Afterwards, there were people that would take part in snorting coke or whatever, drinking beers or whatever, but not in a car.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all time we got for today. We need to have you back, definitely. Thank you so much for coming
you.
on.
Thank you so much, Randy.
Check out freedomgrow.org and check out Survival of the Fastest, the story of Randy. An amazing story. And thanks for coming on.
Thank you.